Hey everybody, it's Tracy from Adventures in Hydroponics and Gardening, and today we're going to be getting back to our roots. We're going to go back to our Kratky bucket. For those of you that have followed along, you'll recognize our Lowe's bucket. We've used it to grow lettuce and cherry tomatoes, and now we're going to grow a green pepper. So stay tuned to see what the heck we're going to do with a pool noodle, a takeout container, of course, and a pirate duck. Alright, so I've assembled all the materials that we're going to be using to grow our green peppers. First, obviously, is our Lowe's bucket. This is a 5-gallon bucket, and like I said, if you've been following the channel, you've seen us use it before. If you get a bucket, you just want to make sure that the plastic type is 2 HDPE. That's the same kind that you can use in hydroponics. The next thing we're using is a pool noodle, and this is the first time I've ever done this before. And you can cut pool noodles with just regular household scissors. And I've just cut these about, I don't know, that's probably about, what, about 2.5 inches. And then I cut a little divot out of it and then put that divot in here. And that's going to help hold the roots in the pool noodle. And then we'll just insert the plant in here, and then the tension will hold in the plant, just like that. Of course, then we're also going to need nutrients. I purchased Master Blend. This is the first time I'm going to be using Master Blend. I bought this on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description from where I bought it from. You could also get it from your local hydroponics store if you're fortunate enough to have one near you. And on this particular package, it does have a 5-gallon recipe, and so you'll use 12 grams or about 2 teaspoons of the Master Blend, and then mix that in really well with your 5 gallons of water. And then you'll mix in 1 teaspoon or 6 grams of Epsom salt, also known as magnesium sulfate. Mix that in really well. And then finally, we're going to mix in 12 grams or about 2 teaspoons of calcium nitrate and mix that in really well. And then we'll go ahead and test our pH and adjust that as needed. And then we'll add our green pepper to the bucket. So if you haven't already set up a Kratky bucket, I'll link to the video where I set up this bucket. But you'll need to have a hole to put in your plants. This is a 2-inch diameter hole. So I have a 2-inch hole saw here that you use with your drill. If you don't have one of these, you can still set this up without this equipment. You can just draw a 2-inch diameter circle on the top of your bucket where you want your hole to go, and then just poke a hole with like a screwdriver or a nail to get the middle started, and then just use a sharp blade to cut out the plastic so you have a hole to put in your plants. So we're going to start with our Master Blend. I've measured out 2 teaspoons of the Master Blend into my takeout container, and then since this is such a small amount, on my scale here, which I've zeroed out, I put a little takeout container lid, and then I'm just going to sprinkle this in until we have 12 grams. Oh, there we go, just about 2 teaspoons. Now we're going to measure out 6 grams of the magnesium sulfate or Epsom salt. And I've already done that. It was just a little bit over a teaspoon. And you can see there we've got 6 grams. All right, and last but not least is our calcium nitrate. We need about 2 teaspoons or 12 grams of that. That was 2 teaspoons, and that's about 10 grams, so we'll put a little more in. So just a hair over 2 teaspoons. So we've got our nutrients measured out. Now we're going to go ahead and put them in our bucket. This is a 5-gallon Lowe's bucket, like I mentioned before. I went ahead and filled it with 5 gallons of water. I just reuse these milk jugs. It's just a lot easier to put your bucket where you want it, because 5 gallons of water is like super heavy. So I filled it with the 5 gallons of water, and now I'm going to put in our Master Blend. And I'm going to stir that in really well until it's completely dissolved, and then we'll go ahead and add our Epsom salt. All right, and now our 6 grams of Epsom salt or magnesium sulfate. Mix that in really well. And last part, we put in our 12 grams of calcium nitrate, and we're going to stir that in. So we've got everything mixed up, but you'll notice that this is pretty full. So I'm actually going to take out some of this water and just put it in one of my gallon jugs so we can use it later. because we're going to have roots, our green pepper roots, which I'm going to talk about in here in just a sec, are pretty long. We don't want them going that far deep into the bucket, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust that water level. So what I did to kind of determine how much water to take out was I put the plant about where it's going to be when I've got it in the lid. I ended up removing just about a gallon of water. So just talking a little bit about these green peppers. These are the ones we started indoors in February, and then we had tried to grow them in soil and they were not very successful. I'll talk about in a minute why they weren't successful, but I just want to show how this all works. So we have cut the pool noodle like I showed in the previous clip, and then we took out a little divot, so you can just slide your green pepper in and out like that, and then you just use that divot part to help hold the plant in place. And then we're going to carefully put the roots down through the hole, just like that. And then the tension of the bucket is going to hold that in. Okay, so now we're going to measure our pH. So I got my Wistech pH meter. If you've been following the channel, you know I've had issues with it, but I have found it's pretty accurate for measuring the 5.5 to 6.5, and I'll show you how I do that to make sure that it's accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, and hopefully I can get this on camera. So that's pretty good. It's measuring in at 6.44. So that's within our 5.5 to 6.5 that we need to grow vegetables. Since we have had trouble with our pH meter, I am going to go ahead and verify it with a pH test indicator. I got some water out of the bucket, and then I added about 4 or 5 drops, and then we can kind of compare on the bottle the color here. And it's about between 6.0 and 6.5, so I'm pretty happy with that. That's about where we need it to grow the green peppers. So if we do need to adjust our pH, you can use this pH up or pH down, and this I'll put a link in the description where you can purchase that. All right, so now we're going to measure our nutrient parts per million, our ppm, and so I'm just putting our meter down into our spare hole here, and it looks like we're coming in at about 930 ppm, which is a little bit low for green peppers, but I found that the pH tends to jump up a little bit. We'll check it again in about 24 hours, and I'll follow up and let you know if I had to make any adjustments to this. I did a Google search, and I found that bell peppers ppm should be about 1400 to 1750, so we are a little low, but I'm going to give it a day or two and remeasure it. I do notice that there are fluctuations after it's been sitting a while, and because our plants have been stressed, I think the lower nutrients will be fine for now. All right, so we're not going to be using this third hole, so I do want to plug that up to block the light, just to prevent any algae growth from forming in our bucket. All right, we've got our grow light in place, and we've got our pirate duck covering up our third hole. So I'll follow up with you guys and let you know how the green peppers are doing, and then stay tuned, and I will let you know why the green peppers weren't thriving out in the soil. Okay, so why weren't the green peppers thriving out in the garden? Well, certainly pests had a role to play, but I also had a role to play. So we started these green pepper seedlings in these Jiffy peat pellets back in February, and then we transplanted them into pots and then eventually out into the garden. But what we didn't do was we forgot to remove kind of this papery membrane that holds the peat moss in the pellet. And so when the plant was trying to grow, the roots were getting constricted in this. So I found that out last night. I had removed the green peppers from the soil and then was carefully washing all of the soil off so we could transplant them into the Kratky bucket. And that's when I found it. I was like, oh, that's why. So hopefully by removing that and then moving them indoors away from any pests into kind of this controlled environment, they'll start thriving. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is after I measured out my nutrients, I put them in these gallon Ziploc bags just to keep any moisture out, and then I'll just throw that in a cool, dark place. As always, if you like what you're seeing, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, And thank you as always for watching. Have a great day.